Our final 2018 C.A.R.B Hall of Fame inductee is another driver who grew up around racing. Based in Wichita Falls, Texas, young Junior Parkinson started out working on his father's race car. Ralph Sr., who was inducted into this Hall of Fame in 2007, was a winning driver competing on the old IMCA circuit. It was 1965 when Junior got his first chance behind the wheel at Oklahoma's Lawton Speedway. He finished 9th in his first race, and he was just 17. In 1970, Junior moved to Kansas City and began working for IMCA racer Whitley Harmon in his garage here in Blue Springs. Junior soon became a regular competitor at area racetracks driving a super modified. Later, he made his way into a sprint car. On the IMCA and BCRA circuits, he captured his first ever feature win at the Nebraska State Fair driving the red Porsche 84 car. In 1971, Junior won a BCRA main event at Smith Center, Kansas. His win there, coupled with Ralph Sr.'s win at Hutchinson, Kansas in 1968, made the Parkinsons the only father and son combo to win in BCRA. In 1972, Junior was looking to become a full-time racer and made the move to Pennsylvania to race with the best. You talk about going up against some pretty stiff competition. He was racing with Kenny Weld and Jan Opperman. The All-Star Circuit of Champions was newly formed and gave Junior a wonderful opportunity to prove his ability competing for points. And even though he didn't win a race in 1973, he ran consistently enough to finish second behind the great Jan Opperman. He also earned the Most Improved Driver Award. Junior moved back to KC in 1977 and traveled the USAC National Tour. In 1983, Junior Parkinson stepped into the Gary Masato car and broke through with his first Knoxville win. He also holds an I-70 Speedway season championship. Since stepping out of the cockpit for good in 1988, Junior focuses attention on his son Chris's team, the third generation of Parkinson's racing sprint cars. Junior is a member of the BCRA Hall of Fame, and tonight he becomes a member of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome Junior Parkinson. Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you.
Here you are.
Thank you very much.
What is your first thought when you got the phone call, you're going in the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame?
Well, it was, when Karen called me that night, I had to sit down and thoughts about my dad, going to the Hall of Fame with him. And then I've been around this organization since it started, and then going in with the people that are, the inductees that are in this deal now is pretty humbling because of all the history that's in this organization.
You were born in Wichita Falls, Texas, right?
Yeah, but Wichita Falls. I was born and raised there, followed my dad around. My brother and I mean, we was in his hair, run out of the shop more times than not. Followed him and Lloyd Ruby. Lloyd and Dad used to travel together a lot. And my brother and I used to sit in the back seat and hand them beer, and that was our job, try to keep them too. And we didn't keep them straight, but we kept them drinking a lot, which was in their mind, drinking and driving, that was okay for them.
What brought you to Kansas City?
Dad and I used to come up here when I was still in high school. Dad come up here to race the fair days back in the mid-'60s. And our home base was Taylor's Garage, where Jerry Well ran the shop. And I was still in high school, but that was our home base. And of course, I got to know everybody through the 3 summers that we came up here. And I raced a little bit and down around home, ran a few races. And first time you talk about that deal at Lawton, my brother and I, Dad was up here racing the fair dates, and I'd already gone back home to go to school, and Frankie said, you know, they're running at Lawton tonight, let's go up and watch. I said, hell, let's get the car and take it up there and race it. He said, we can't get in the pits, and that's back when you had to be 18 to get in the pits. So he got my dad's oldest brother, got him out of the house and said, come on, we're going to go to Lawton for the races. He said, okay, so we had the race car on the back of the truck. He said, who's going to drive? Oh, we got this guy that's going to drive, it'll be okay. Well, we get there, of course, that guy didn't show up, and so I hot lapped the car, and Uncle Budgie said, who's going to drive it? I said, well, that guy didn't show up, so I said, I'm going to drive it. Uncle Buddy said, this is not going to be good. And that's all the bunch out of Dallas was up there, Shady and Tom Marshall and the Bellmeyer car. There were some hitters there that night, and I was very fortunate to run ninth in the feature. So Frankie and I took the car back home and cleaned it up, washed it, put it in the shop. Dad will never find out. He knew the next day because all that bunch out of Dallas was coming to run Topeka at the fairgrounds. And of course he found out and he called, asked, would you go to the races? Yep. How was it? Oh, it was good. The races were good. Well, he came home about 3 weeks later and we're in the shop. And he said, this thing, you guys, something been done to this car? Oh, we took it out and washed it, cleaned it up, put it back in here. Okay. Well, a couple of days later, we're in there and getting ready to go to Lubbock to race. And he said, you want to tell me what happened the other night? What? Well, I know you drove the car. Yeah, jig's up. So I told him, and he said, I guess everything's okay. Yeah, we didn't hurt anything. So he said, where's the money? Uncle Budgie's got it. So we get in the truck, headed to Lubbock, and we pull in there. And of course, there's just three of us in the front seat of the truck, pull up the gate, and the guy asked Dad, said, okay, Ralph, said, we got you lined up here. And he said, nope, I'm not driving tonight. Pointed at me, and I looked, I said, I'm driving? He said, yep. So I raced that night at Lubbock. And of course, Lubbock's not far from Albuquerque, and all that bunch was there. Just a couple of the Unsers and Johnny Caples and some of them guys, and I got my feet wet in a hurry.
Were you nervous because your dad said, hey, drive?
Yeah, that was a much different deal than me just being Frankie taking a car. And him is, of course, like you guys, your dad looking over your shoulder, it's a little tougher sometimes. And but we did pretty good that night. Not great, but pretty good. And then we went back again in right at the end of the season. They had their championship race, and we pull in there, and I'm going to drive it again. I got to start dead last because it's a point deal, and I'm like 24th in the field. And Dad said, "Don't worry, we'll be at the front before this deal's over with." And it's an old spring front car and had a weight jack on it, and he'd walk out there and he'd hold up 5 fingers. That was put 5 turns of weight in it. End of the night, we run 4th, and I went, "Yeah, this, I think I could be one of these guys." But of course, as everybody knows, things don't always go as good as you think they're going to go. But it was pretty good. And then I decided after I got out of school, I said, I think I want to move to Kansas City and race. And he said, okay. And he gave me a credit card for gas and got in my car and moved to Kansas City. And that's how I got here.
And eventually you thought you were good enough. You want to do this full time.
Well, yeah, I raced around here a little bit. I drove for Pappy Weld a little bit, drove for some other guys. I drove for Mazzetta, first started when Mazzetta got a car. And I raced a little bit, and I was doing okay, not great, but just pretty good. And I decided, if you're going to do this right, let's just get in the truck and head to Pennsylvania. And I was working for Greg Weld at night, running the lathe, turning the centers. And I told him, I said, I ain't going to go to Pennsylvania to race. He said, you'll be all right. He said, you can do it. He said, I've seen you enough. You'll be all right. And I did pretty good.
Was it easier or tougher than you expected?
Oh, it was tough. I mean, when them guys up there unload, it ain't how to win friends and influence people. It's a dogfight. And then, of course, the competition. Oh, my. I mean, there was any night, especially at the Grove, because the Grove ran Friday nights. At the Grove on Friday night, there was 15 cars that could win. But the two main ones, of course, Jan and Kenny were. But then you had another 10 or 12 that. It was a tough go.
What made those two drivers, Kenny Weld, Jan Opperman, stand out over the rest?
I don't know whether it's desire or what, but those two guys, they were tougher than anybody ever raced with, and I'm talking even USAC with Poncho and Bigelow and all those guys. Those two guys, I mean, of course, Kenny slept, and drank racing. I mean, that was his deal. And Opperman was just, he was tough. I mean, no matter what, he didn't work on the car, but put him in the bolting behind the seat, he was tough. But I mean, and I ran against some hitters in USAC, but I want to tell you, those two, when you drove into the racetrack, those two, you knew you were going to run third. no matter what, because you weren't going to beat those two.
You decided to come back to Kansas City after, what, about 77?
77, Dad won the championship in IMCA in 76. And in 77, he ran the deal for Getty's championship. And he said, come home this winter. He said, I want to go run USAC next year. I said, you want me to wrench for you? He said, no, I want to take you up there to run USAC. Oh, okay. So we did that, and that was pretty good. We did not great, but we did pretty good. And of course, just running our own stuff, but it was running against that bunch for what we did out of the shop, our shop. We did pretty good.
I grew up watching both you and your dad race at Knoxville. Pretty special place.
We've known each other a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, I got to tell you, his brother, Dick, worked on Hank Smith's car in 75 when I drove for Hank Smith. So that's how we really got to know each other. Yeah.
Yep. But I remember you and your dad racing up there. How big was that you got a win at Knoxville?
The night I won, Billy Robinson, who we just buried the other day, we were running, he was down for Gilbert Sonner, and we ran all years. Me and TJ, Randy Smith, and Rocky Hodges, we were running the top 4 points all year. And Billy and I were running 1-2 that night, and I mean, it was a dogfight. And got down to close to the end of the feature, and I snookered him going into 1 and got a win. But I want to tell you that was a win. To win at Knoxville, I mean, that's a big deal, a huge deal for this part of it. For where's Dude's won over 100 times. First time he won is a big deal.
He's the all-time leader,
and it's a big deal. I mean, it's a huge deal.
Your dad won up there too.
Dad won in '69 at the Nationals, and we were the first father-son to win features at Knoxville. So that was another pretty good deal.
How about that? Your son Chris is out there racing. You're still hanging around racetracks.
Chris is here, and he's doing very well. I mean, he's carrying on the legacy real well. His grandpa would be very, very proud of him. Won a championship in 14, run second in 15, second in 16, third last year. Yeah, he's doing good.
It still keeps you going, doesn't it? You like being at the track still, don't you?
I love being at the track. I love helping him, and I just wish we had more money to make things better, but we do what we can do, and thankfully our sponsors help us a lot, and but we try hard.
Who's here with you here tonight?
All my bunch over here. You got Debbie and Jeff Huffmeister, which is Chris's biggest fans. The old man John Helms, Dave Tyson, who nominated me in the Hall of Fame. Andrea and Nancy Cassell, which are their Rod, who's no longer with us, always helped us. Linda Wells, my honey, and her sister Amy, which are Jerry Wells' daughters. And then you got Dick Howard, Bob Baker. Oh, there's Chris right there.
They're already Hall of Famers.
Yeah, they're already Hall of Famers. Bob Mays, who runs the Speedway Museum for Bill Smith, and his wife Donna, who's Chet Wilson's daughter, and then Dick's daughter Jessica, her husband Chris, and Cassie, and Joanne. Dick, yeah. So plus Raymond and that bunch back there, we were together the other day. Rayleigh, Goodwin, and Heavy. That was 2 hours well spent. Yeah,
we need to mention we lost Gary Ainsworth and John Singer, who are in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, yeah. John Singer died 2 weeks ago, and Bill Robinson, who died about 3 weeks ago. Yeah, unfortunately, as we get older, it seems to come along a little more.
Yeah, well, you're still going to be involved for as long as you're alive. I know you are.
As long as I can maneuver and get around, and it's getting a lot easier to move around, and as long as Chris keeps doing good, we're going to keep trying to beat down the door for more championships.
Final thoughts about what it means for you to be in the Hall of Fame.
I can remember this being talked about back many years ago with Charlie Heritage and Lee Fagley. Talked about it many, many years ago, what their ambition was to have one of these Hall of Fames here in Kansas City. And I'm sure they're looking down because the board of directors that we have got this thing headed in a great direction. Karen and all of them are doing a hell of a job. And like I said, the night she called me, it was a very humbling experience to sit there and listen that I was going to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. And it's just a pleasure, and I just can't tell you how great a feeling it is to be involved with this organization and now to be part of it.
And I know you'll be back every year.
Oh yeah, I've been coming since Dad was inducted in '7. Yeah, and it's because this is just a great organization. Like I said, and the kids, the bunch that's got it, Karen, and the bunch that's got it going now, I've got it pointed in the right direction, and they're doing a hell of a job.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Kurt.
Junior Parkinson. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.